6 months, 6 years, or 6 days worth of road savings. It's just conjecture, as one of your citizens already said. The only thing we do know is the city of Arden Hills, as one of the citizens just said, had an engineering firm who said, quote, reducing the number of heavy truck loadings should have a positive effect on the lifespan and quality of local streets. However, environmental factors are generally responsible for the majority of pavement wear and deterioration in Arden Hills, and therefore significant extensions of pavement are unlikely under organized collection. Don't take this opportunity for people to choose away from them just because there are perceived savings. As other people have said, are you going to ban UPS trucks in favor of FedEx trucks? Are you going to make that decision? I live in St. Paul. There's a brick alley behind my house that's 100 years old. I suspect that brick alley was there when the house was built. I've been there 30 years. It's never had any damage, even though there's an open hauling system in St. Paul. So I think that's a conjecture and maybe overstated.
You have 3 more minutes.
Thank you, sir. With respect to price, obviously people shop around. Some people have said they have had the opportunity to talk to their haulers, talk to competitors, and get better prices. That's what free competition in the open market provides. It gives them a chance to shop. If you don't like your current hauler's price, call him up. See if he'll give you a better price. If you don't like that price, see who else hauls in the community. That's what competition does, provides the opportunity for people to shop around and do that kind of looking. I suggest to you that whatever savings that you might be able to provide by having the city do this business is for the few bucks a month. Some people don't want to see you do. They'd rather make those decisions themselves and not have to deal with that. In summary, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, there have been 20 cities who looked at this, Washington and Ramsey counties as well. Both counties have decided not to do it. Some of the 20 I will highlight to you: Coon Rapids, Falcon Heights, Grant Township, Lauderdale, Prior Lake, Stillwater Township, and St. Anthony are all communities in which they've looked at this and the government has decided not to do it. They've abandoned proceeding forward with any government-managed organized collection. Why? Because the citizens were overwhelmingly opposed in each of these communities. Understand the city of Maplewood did a survey last year in which 70% of the citizens were opposed to this. As a matter of fact, the reply cards that were sent in, I've got a copy of that if you need it. The reply cards that were sent in from the citizens, as you can see, are very large stack. There's about 1,000 cards, 100 are from outside the city, but of the 900 that remain, only 25 were in favor of government-managed organized collection. The rest of them were opposed to it, much like the citizen reflection you've had this evening. Listen to the citizens, do as they ask you, and I have one last quote. Some famous man once said, "The government should do for the people what they can't do better for themselves." His name was Abraham Lincoln, and I suggest that applies very much here, sir. They can do it for themselves better. Thank you.
Yeah. Why don't we get all the haulers kind of in here so that I can see how many there are so we can allot the time appropriately?
My name is Mark Stoltman.
Just one moment, please.
That photo of cards was not from one.
Yeah.
That was generated from his letter to me.
Right, okay. So, if there are haulers out there, if they could come in here so that I could more easily be able to tell how many are going to speak. Sorry for that. Go ahead.
That's okay. My name is Mark Stoltman. I am the General Manager of Randy's Environmental Services, and I am the current chapter chairman for the NSWMA in Minnesota. I have listened to everybody speak tonight, and in listening, the first difference I see in the way this has been run at this point is that in some of the cities we work in, Falcon Heights, Arden Hills, St. Anthony, they established a task force much like your Environmental Natural Resource Commission, but we were invited to participate and to handle and answer some of the questions that they had that may be technical in nature or something that they don't deal with every day. I went back through your city council meeting minutes and I see that they've been working on this, I believe, since at least January. At no point in time has my office been contacted for input, or our offices in Chicago, which are the regional offices for the NSWMA. And I think we could have eliminated a lot of the concerns and issues that may have been raised here tonight if you had had some input from us. But that isn't typically the way things are handled. It seems that there's an adversarial role between city government and the hauling community for some reason. And maybe there's a little bit of blame to be placed on both sides, but the study that you've referred to in a couple of different time periods tonight really is interesting, because the study is 365 pages long for anybody that wants to go online and read the study. And we were contacted with about 6 days before the study was due to be given to the PCA. We had 4 days' notice to get together a meeting of people, and we had just a little less than 3 hours to give some comment, as there was rapidly fired questions by a couple of different people. At that point, the study was completely done, and only our input, which were taken as sidebar, were included in there. And it's interesting in my mind, because for the same reason that we haven't had much input, I look at this number 4, statutory process, as cumbersome, as a con. And you know, the statutory process was designed for exactly this reason, because oftentimes either the citizens or the people that actually do the work don't get the proper contemplation and are not listened to by the people that want to make the decisions. So staff gets a predetermined set of thought processes going, and there's nobody to derail that or even to add a third dimension to that, because you don't know you don't know. And that's not right. So in that, the idea behind that is to educate the citizens, to help them understand, and to have a healthy dialogue back and forth between the people that you serve and elect you. I think it's a good process. I don't think it's cumbersome. I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad it takes situations like this, where very little input is taken from either side up until this point, and a decision wants to be made. Now, the study itself, I find interesting, because you've alluded to several things, and if you're going to use the study, I think I'd be careful as to how you use it, given the fact that, as the gentleman said earlier, it was government hired an independent consulting firm to produce a report for government to get an end to a means that they desperately want to have, which is organized collection. We took the study apart. We actually went to the PCA, a group of people. We took every record. We got a copy of it, and we took it back and dissected it. And it's interesting that during the process of putting the report together, and the report was put together in kind of a rush toward the end, because it was due to be given to the Governor's Solid Waste Task Force for greenhouse gas emissions, which I sat on. And during the presentation, the company, the consultant company that produced the report, had talked about some of the things that you had, Mr. Mayor, on how inexpensive it was for certain organized cities to dispose of their waste, whereas the open system was so much more expensive. And I sat there, and as one of the hauler representatives on the task force, I looked at it and I said, you know, there's something wrong with this. It doesn't seem that it's possible that the disparity is so large in both ways. I said to the individual, is it possible that the city is paying the disposal in any of these situations? There was a long pause. He said, you know, there is. There is a couple of those. Well, a couple of those, one of which he used as the low point for how cheap it could be to organize. If the city pays a disposal and the hauler is just paid for the labor, you can artificially make that number look pretty darn enticing. The high number was
about a minute left.
Okay, the high number was $25, was $50 for a 65-gallon container and $25 for a 90. I said that seems wrong. Obviously, it was wrong. The study was done, and the input was given by employees of the county. It was only given to two groups of people. One, the consulting company employees. The second one was the actual county employees. If I polled the people in this room and had them pull their waste bill, you wouldn't get, and I provided them the same bill, you'd probably get 10 different numbers from people, because the bills include yard waste in some cases, they include recycling, they include city taxes, they include environmental fees. And the reality is, in many of the situations, one of the city's net study had one sample for the entire city. That's how the rate was set. It happened to be our customer. Called the office and I looked at it. It was misquoted by $3 because they included, they were looking for trash only and it had yard waste attached. So I can point out many of those things. The truck that they used for greenhouse gas was 20 years old. It was pre-fuel injection. You can't do those type things. If you take any input from us, you would have seen there was a flaw in the entire process. And I can, if anybody wants to debate us on the shortfalls of that, we're happy to take care of that, because that's a fact. The last thing I would say is some of the detail. Arden Hills, and St. Anthony both hired independent consulting engineering firms to testify on behalf of organized collection, strangely enough. And in both cases, as Mr. Carnival said, in Arden Hills, they testified not really maybe wanted to be heard by the city, but that if you did nothing but build a road and let it sit for 20 years, let the wind and the snow and the ice and everything that we have in Minnesota have at it, it would be pretty much in the same shape as if you drove over it every day. The St. Anthony hired the consulting firm that built the 35W bridge. They agreed.
Okay,
thank you very
the
much.
other haulers, because these guys have spoken longer, have 4 minutes each. So,
We have to go home at 9:30.
so who's next?
Hi, I'm Gene with Gene's Disposal, and organized collection has kind of been a downfall for every small business as far as garbage businesses. I can't, well, one way I can explain it, I bought the business from my mom, and I'm making her payments. Now, essentially what you want me to do, it'd be like me taking your house, and then you got to bid on it to get it back. It won't work. I can't do it. And as far as organized collection saving anyone money, that's ridiculous. You mentioned White Bear is real cheap on their monthly rates. I'd say 30 cleanups a month in White Bear, because for their garbage hauler to do it, it costs them way too much money. I actually ran out to Stillwater one day because a guy called in a frantic, and he paid me $100 to pick up a window because it's been sitting there for 3 weeks. And the city was getting on him, and they were going to fine him for it sitting there. And he's like, I've called the hauler. I've tried to flag down the guy driving. He told me I can't get it in the truck. So he was actually going to get fined. And I ran over there. Guy gave me $100, and I was, it's just, there's a lot. I mean, you really take the personal service out of it. I mean, I got a lot of my customers might have my cell phone number, and they can call me anytime. I don't know if that was my best idea, but because they use it quite frequently. I mean, there's no, holidays late at night or whatever, but I mean, I think, I just don't know how else to explain it. I mean, it does, we've been in business since 1968, and we started in Maplewood. That's 42 years. And we've been against multi-billion-dollar companies. We've been against other small companies. We've been hit every which way. But our service has always kept us in business. And if it goes to bid, then that takes the service part out of it. And I've had customers that left me for lower rates to bigger conglomerates or whatever, and I told the one guy, he said, you know what? I go, take your savings and buy aspirin because you're probably going to have a headache, And he came back to me about a year later. I mean, I don't know. But as far as my business, it won't be here if this goes organized. Even if you guys split it up into little smaller sections or whatever, at the end of the day, my rates are my rates for a reason, because that's what I need to make. Some of my drivers have been with me for 30 years, and it's just, I can't compete in a bid, And as far as roads, I think that's the problem with roads nowadays too, is they all go to bid. And cheapest bid wins. Cheapest bid might not necessarily be your best road, and it ends up costing you more money in the end. So I guess that's really all I have to say. But thank you.
Thank you. Who else have we got?
Mayor and council members, my name is, come down. My name is Jennifer Clennert, and I'm the Public Sector Manager for Waste Management.